The recording is going. Okay, my name is Dr. Rob Pennington. I'm an educational psychologist. What that means is I know how to use a library. But what I've learned that I want to share with you, I didn't learn in school. I learned through destroying my first marriage and having challenges being a leader. And I've found a lot of things that made a difference in my life. And with this time we have, this little moment to transform the quality of the rest of your life, I want to give you the thing that's most important and most valuable to me, and that is these 3 questions to end conflict. Our program today is based on the capability model, building personal capabilities and creating personal growth. So we're right in here with what you all are needing professionally. And just before we want to go forward with this, I want to just check on a couple of things. So this is a little would you rather test. I learned from Karen McCulloch. So would you rather have an argument with your spouse or your boss? So put whichever one in the chat. Let's see where you're going with this. And the handouts are in the chat too. Okay, now notice it looks like most people would rather have an argument with their spouse. Okay, well, there's probably a financial reason for that. But let's go to the next one, which is kind of related. Would you rather lose an argument to your spouse or your boss? Spouse or boss in the chat. So it looks like some are more interested in their lifelong companion than they are their temporary supervisor. Neither. Very good, Bonnie. Yes, go for the win. Here's the next one. Would you rather lose when you're right or win when you're wrong in an argument? So lose or win in the chat. That's a little trickier thought. Would you rather lose when you're right or win when you're wrong? So this seems to be about even coming in so far. A little bit more on the lose. But it's an interesting choice because this is a choice we make every time. And here's the last. Would you rather hear a new idea or have everyone agree with you? So just new or agree in the chat. So would you rather hear a new idea or would you rather have everyone agree with you? Okay, so everybody seems to be putting new in, and yes, Scott, please be honest. So if you want the new idea, you probably don't need to stay here and hear this. You can go learn something else. You've already got a good idea out of this. But let's go ahead and take you through some important ideas that have made a difference in my life. Get your hand out. If you don't have it, maybe Matt can put it back in the chat again. And just in that upper left-hand corner is take a moment to think about a challenge, a difference of opinion that you have at work or at home that you'd be willing to at least write about. I don't think we're going to have time to talk about it, but take a minute to just do some writing there on your handout or just somewhere on your piece of paper on the back of your hand, you know, and maybe just a couple of words like a person's name and what the conflict is, and just get something in your mind so that everything we present and discuss this afternoon, your mind will relate it to that specific opportunity. So this is just a good training technique for the trainers of you, is get people to think about the specific thing in their life that they're going to relate to. That's an important process. Okay, so I'd like you to put in chat work or home. Which one are you looking at? Which one did you choose? So in chat, work or home. Welcome, Megan. Megan, let Matt know if you need the handouts. He can put it back in the chat again. So we're about a split between work and home. Well, again, let me congratulate those who chose home in a way, because I don't think anybody's healthier at work than they are at home. And I think home is where we're most vulnerable because we're just more emotionally engaged, and therefore we can be triggered so much easier. And the more you can practice these things there, the better. Because everybody has conflict. That's just inevitable. In every relationship, you're going to have conflict. No matter how much love, no matter how much respect, you're going to have conflict. And so you need to get good at it. And I think the person who's the best at facilitating conflict, not necessarily always having your way, that's different, but facilitating differences of opinion is the person through who the most information is going to flow, and therefore the power to influence is going to be the greatest. If you have a question or comment anytime, go ahead and put it in chat. Matt's monitoring that as I move on through things. So how much time do you think you spend dealing with conflict? I'd like you to put a percentage in chat. How much, like, let's say at work, how much time at work do you think you spend dealing with conflict? Just get some numbers in your mind, put it in chat. What percent? Stephanie, you're doing pretty good. Jill, that's probably very honest. 30%, 60%. Thank you, Gina. Dina. Yeah, I know you avoid it, but there's still that there. Avoiding is just one way you're dealing with conflict. And I like Rochelle as little as possible. But here's actually some research on it. Washington Business Journal says the typical manager spends 25 to 50% of their time dealing with conflict. And maybe a lot of that's other people's conflicts. So that's like 1 to 2 days every work week. So I think this is pretty significant, besides just the wear and tear it takes on our emotions, et cetera. And it's because I think few of us grew up in a family where when there was a conflict, we ended up closer. So most of us don't have very good conflict resolution skills. How many of you had siblings? Put the number of siblings you had in your in the chat. If you only had one, as in, and looks like we got a lot of single kids here. Jill said one is more than enough. Then you didn't grow up with conflict. Like my way, your way. No, you get on that side of the chair. No, we just grew up with that, and the problem is that we take it into our adulthood. It's just too easily assumed that if they win, we lose. It's just an automatic hair trigger thing. Oh, kid, 5 boys. Yeah, constant battles. And that applies to coworkers or if a different team or even a customer who wants a lower price, you're going to have challenges. So put the number of meetings or weeks you have in the chat. How many meetings do you have per week now? And that includes this one. But ones where you have to work things out, you have to get an agreement. Wow, Stephanie, 10 to 20 to 15 to 20. It looks like people are averaging around 10. Every one of those is an opportunity to explore a difference of opinion. But we tend to have hair triggers on this, and it just gets in the way. We often have conflicts that can destroy marriages. I did marriage counseling for 30 years. And I think they all married each other because they loved each other. But then they got to the place of not feeling loved, because of not being able to handle disagreement. That was it. In a workplace, we talk about respect. And winning is just who could beat the other up the fastest. But usually it's not because we learn how to keep our cool when others are losing theirs. That's a talent that's developed. It could be your talent as well. Or, and this is really important to remember, that everyone has a valuable perspective, particularly the one that's different than yours. Because I guarantee you, you don't know why they don't know what you know. And until you can see your point of view from theirs, you're not going to have much chance to have influence. Because if they don't experience being understood, this is a very profound idea. If they think you don't understand, then by definition, nothing you say has any relevance, even if it would save their life. So I've discovered in the middle of an argument, the first thing I want to do is create a feeling of being understood in the other person. And just saying, I understand, never does that. Getting louder never does that. You actually have to repeat what they're saying in the middle of a conflict. But you could do that. So think about the people you have the most difficulty listening to. Like you wrote down on the handout, I wanted to get some people in your mind, their faces in your mind, because they're the ones that you can practice what we're going to be talking about with. And I want you to have their face in your mind when you're thinking about doing it. So the other thing is we need to learn how to find agreements hidden in disagreements. And I'm going to show you how to do that, because not everybody knows how to do that. We just think a disagreement is a disagreement, but it's not. Most agreements are hidden in disagreements. So we all need to know we can handle it better, but if you will after this, because I'm going to share lots of stuff. So we're going to learn how to recognize your stress quicker, move through it faster, because that's the first thing that creates this habit of responding with an argument, responding with a conflict. And let me explain the word conflict a little bit better, because I'm not meaning like a knockdown, drag out argument. I'm meaning anytime some kind of emotion hits you. anytime there's a disagreement or an argument and your mind goes into my way or their way, and you only see those two possibilities, and your first approach is to tell them what you think is right, just trying to be helpful. And we're going to talk about 3 questions, but also the 5 levels of communication. I'll give you some extra resources, a bunch of extra resources to help you move through this. And the one thing that causes the most conflict. So just a comment about speeding through stress. I have this model, 15 steps, 5 steps in 15 seconds. And this is the habit I think we all have. We all tend to hold our breath, tense our muscles, have self-doubt, think negative, get serious. Anytime, anything, or anyone is not the way we want it to be. So guess how many times that happens a day? I'm thinking about 20 times a day. And that is something that we have a habit of doing. In fact, you're never going to not do that. The goal is not to never have stress or have a negative reaction. The goal is to recognize it quicker and move through it faster. And what you got to do is learn how to take each one of these 5 things and flip them to their opposite. It's not that difficult. You just got to remember to do it. Breathe. Everybody take a deep breath. And on the out breath, relax. Reassure yourself. It's okay to be you. You'll figure this out. And think positive. There's always a better way. And look for some humor because it's always there. And you can go to speedthroughstress.com, and I've got a 20-minute video of me talking about when I got shot in the center of my chest right over here near Rush University some years ago, and a little 50-page workbook. Started out to be like 5 pages, 5 steps, 5 pages. But I told a lot of stories, and I created some worksheets and some activities. So this is the most important thing to learn how to do to deal with that emotional wave that causes us to forget any communication skill. So if you're going to remember any of these communication skills, you got to learn to deal with that emotional wave first, and this is how. So what do you think the one thing is that causes most conflict? Please put your answer into the chat. What do you think the one thing is that causes most conflict? Anybody in the chat? Okay. Past condition. Yep, our beliefs, not feeling heard. Either one, home or work, the same things apply. Money and politics. These are all the things we're disagreeing about. Lack of trust, taking it personal, delegate. All of these things are true. They all affect our conflict, but they're not the one thing that causes most. So I'm glad you're here, because think about this. What percent of conflict do you think might be because of a misunderstanding? Get a number in your mind. What percent of conflict is because of a misunderstanding? And Matt, let's do a poll on this. See what they think. So they're, 25% or less, 50%, 75%, 90%. What do you think? It looks like we got people right up there in the 75%, 90%. We're getting most people are in. We've got a few more seconds to go on this. So everybody put your vote in, unless you're just sitting there not watching at all. So we've got 19 people on, but it looks like 11 are participating. So I'm going to go ahead and have us close the poll because we hadn't gotten any more votes, and look like most of us think 75% of our conflicts are because of a misunderstanding. Now, you knew that. You just didn't think about it in the middle of a conflict. Or you thought about who it is that's misunderstanding. And it's not you, right? It's the other person who's misunderstanding. So I want to take this a little farther for you. Let's just look at a disagreement and see what you think about this. What percent of disagreement is because you misunderstand? Get a number in mind. Put your number in the chat. The percent of disagreement that's because you misunderstand. Oh, you all are being very generous. You're taking a lot of responsibility for it. Actually, Stephanie's right. Because in the middle of an argument, what do you believe about your point of view? And what percent of the time? 100% of the time. So the answer is actually 0. And when you know you're right, what do you know about them? They're wrong, of course. And when you know you're right and you know they're wrong, what's your job? Just to point out how wrong they are, right? We just want to be helpful. Don't want them to go down the wrong path. But what percent of the time when you know you're right and you know they're wrong and you try to convince them that they're wrong, what percent of the time are they grateful? Never, ever. But what percent of the time do we do it? all the time. So here's something that never works, and we do it anyway. You know, it reminds me of Betty Rogers, who's buried in Coral Gables, Florida. She had inscribed on her tombstone, "See, I told you I was sick." She died to make a point. Gives new insight to the phrase being dead right. So be careful. Because when you discover that there was a misunderstanding, what happens to the perception there's a disagreement? It goes away. And when you discover that there's a misunderstanding, what's left? The disagreement went away. What's left? What's actually left is an agreement that we didn't see because we believe the misunderstanding to be correct. And many of you think 75% of the time. Wow, let that sink in. That's very profound. You know, the majority of agreements are really agreements we don't see. They're made up of three categories, I think. The largest are misunderstandings, which, by the way, means we already have an agreement. We don't see it because we believe the misunderstanding is correct. If we eliminate the misunderstanding, we discover the agreement, but also we can discover what's negotiable. So write this down, because I don't know it's in the handout. Write this down. What would it take for me to do what they want? I think this is a golden phrase that'll save your marriage, your career, your kids. What would it take for me to do what? Because our mind doesn't think that way. I'm right, you're wrong. Let's argue about it. Let's get in a fight about it. Let's destroy the relationship. I'd rather be right. What would it take for me to do what you want? Well, open the door to what would it take for you to do what they want. Now you're negotiating. But it may be that there's things that you want and they want, they're not negotiable. And that's good to find out, because if you have a requirement, which by definition means not negotiable, not debatable, we agree to this or it's a deal breaker, then you don't have to discuss anything. You know, it's just, this is what's required. And it's so much easier. I have a whole blog about this, about the difference between requirements and preferences. And I'll be talking at a relationship mastery program in November about it. But I want you to get these ideas in your mind, because what that says is there's very few things that are not negotiable. You know, but we treat everything as if it's in that category. Sad, but true. So back to your handout again. And let me show you something here. So here you are with your ideas. And what do you believe about your ideas? They're right, of course. And what do you believe about all your ideas? Don't you think all your ideas are right? I mean, even when you think you're wrong, don't you think you're right that you're wrong? Let that sink in. So here they are with their ideas. What do they think about their ideas? They're right. So you're trying to get your ideas into them. They're trying to get their ideas into you. This is called an argument. Makes a mess always. And who's listening? Who's listening? But remember, power to influence flows to the person with the most information. So you know what you know. You don't really know what they know. And unless you care, you're not going to be able to find out, and you're not going to have any effect on them. So here's what you do. You take your ideas, which I'll grant you are the right ideas, and you just set them aside for a few moments. They're not going anywhere. They are the right ideas. And you do what your computer does, which is create an empty space. So, you know, you can create a new folder anytime you want, label it whatever you want. Your mind is like that too. It's not true what my dad thought. He said that if he needs to remember something, he needs to forget something, so he has some space. Not true. So here's what you want to do. You want to ask the question, what is it you want me to know? Now, when you say, what is it you want me to know? What are they going to do? They're going to start telling you, well, there's this and this and this. Now, I guarantee you, you're going to have some opinions about it. You just don't say them right then. This is easier for introverts who don't say anything they haven't thought about anyway. For those of us who are more extroverted, this is so difficult. Our thoughts are so loud. Our thoughts are louder than other people's words. And we want to say what we're thinking, because if we don't, we're going to forget it because there's more thoughts coming. Write it down if you have to. But so I'm just keeping my ideas aside. I've taken their ideas, and don't go, yeah, I know. That never works. You have to say what your understanding is. So take your ideas and give them back to them with the same kind of tone if you can. So there's this and this and this. And if you do it right, they'll go, yeah. And you're going to feel so good. They're going to feel good. I mean, actually, someone heard me. And you're going to think it's your turn. And it's not. What's the chances there might be some more over here in their ideas? Always, always. So you want to ask the next question. Is there anything else? And they're going to go, well, there's that and that. You go, oh, there's that and that. And this and this and this. And they go, yeah, yes. And listen, this is really powerful because most people have never had someone listen to them that long and made sure that they understood that thoroughly. And all you're doing is just taking what they're saying and giving it back to them. So there's that and that and that and this and this and this. Yes. And what are the chances there may still be just a little bit more over here? I think pretty good. And so you want to make sure you ask the last question, is that all? So let me back up a minute. So if you say, is there anything else, and they tell you something else, then ask again, is there anything else? And if they say it again, then give them something more to ask. Because you want to be thorough. You want to get this last little bit. What's funny is oftentimes they'll say the same thing. They'll say, well, because you asked, which means you weren't going to get it. But because you listened, because you've demonstrated caring, compassion, communication, collaboration, cooperation, all those great things, they're going to go, well, there's this. Oh, this. Yes, this. How many times is the last this what it was all about? Especially with kids. Now, this is a powerful moment. So I can do this correctly. You already know everything you know. And now you know everything they know, and they only know what they know. Power flows to the person with the most information. But you want to take their ideas and your ideas, and you want to kind of let them percolate together, and you don't have to answer it right then. You can say, wow, this is real important. Let me think about this. Let me see if I understand what it is you're saying. But these three questions, they end the sense of conflict. You're no longer battling because you're wanting to understand. And who doesn't want to be understood? So immediately you're moving the person in the direction they're going. And that's what martial arts is about. We see in martial arts, the movies, it's all about who to beat the person. That's the best, like that earlier slide. And that destroys our relationships with the people we love. So this is about moving the person in the direction they're going. Pulling information out of them, getting them to tell you more. And while you're doing these three questions, you have to keep your ideas out of it. And when you finish, they should have no idea what you're thinking about it. If you did this right, if you did this well. The less resistance you have to someone's point of view, the easier it is to move them in the direction of your point of view, but you have to empty them out first. Because until they experience being understood by you, they can't believe that anything you say has relevance. So the first thing I want to do is find out what it is they see that I don't see. And by the way, here's a little trick. Anybody who's angry in their communication is telling you two things. So this is a psychologist in me talking. They may not be aware of it, but I think it's true. And when I say it, I think you'll agree with me. And that is, they're telling you that what they're saying is important. You agree? I'm looking up at everybody who's got their cameras on. But they're also telling you they don't think you want to hear it. If they thought you wanted to hear it, they would not have to get angry to tell you. They would just tell you because they know you'd want to hear it. So that's the first thing you want to hear is the emotional tone. And if they're angry, you want to really focus in on letting them know, I can tell this is important. What does he want me to know? And you want to repeat what they have to say and ask for more. And repeat what they say, I have to ask for more. And contain your reaction, even in your face and your tone. Because if you say, well, is there anything else? You stupid idiot. Any sentence you say, you could add on the end of it, you stupid idiot, is not a good communication. And it comes across so easily because this is what we're thinking. So that's why the stress management, breathe, relax, reassure yourself, think positive, look for some humor if possible, but stay focused on this process of what's necessary to move a person from their point of view to your point of view. It's just, what works. So those 3 questions are real keys to eliminating first that you misunderstand. And listen, isn't it in your own best selfish interest if you misunderstood to figure that out as quick as possible? Absolutely. But in the middle of a conflict, we forget it. But I guarantee you, the more, I guess, humble you are willing to admit, how many of you are willing to admit you don't know everything? So isn't it possible someone might know something you don't know that would be good for you to know? If you hear what I'm saying, it might be paralyzing. Oh my God, what do I know that I should know? But I tell you, a good time to consider the possibility that maybe what you believe might not be the best is when someone's telling you that you're wrong. I think that's a good time. Good time to go, oh, wow, well, maybe so. And if you just have the attitude of interest, if you're just curious about why they think whatever they think, I guarantee you're going to reduce their resistance. They don't have to be defensive. And the problem is what we typically do unconsciously and automatically is we behave in ways that cause people to defend the point of view we're trying to get them to let go of. So not only do we not find out what would be in our own best interest whenever we misunderstood, like Emily Litella, Gilda Radner, oh, never mind, whenever she misunderstood. That's telling my age, an old early Saturday Night Live reference. So we want to be the person who's open to that we may have misunderstood, but we also want to reduce the other person's defensiveness. And if you just come back and slam them with that was stupid or whatever, I guarantee you they're going to be defensive, which means they're going to hold on to the point of view you're trying to get them to let go of. So they only will let go when they know you understand. Now, that does not mean you agree. And we need to be able to, in our own mind, separate those 2 things. Understanding someone's point of view does not mean you agree with them. In fact, in the process, as I said earlier, of going through making certain they experience being understood by using those 3 questions, they should have no idea what you think about it if you do it correctly, if you do it well. And if you misunderstood, you could just say, wow, thank you for pointing that out. You're right. I completely agree. I was having a meeting years ago with my business partner and a friend we'd known for 10 years, and we were getting ready to do a business deal, and we had it all arranged, and we were having dinner to celebrate. And during the dinner, I started thinking like, wait a minute, I thought we agreed to this. I thought we agreed to that. I'm not feeling like we're having an agreement. And I'm starting to get back in my chair. I think she's starting to get back in her chair. And my business partner, Stephen, was looking at us going like, what is going on here? We're going to end here without the agreement. We came here to celebrate. And he just leaned over to me very tactfully. He said, what was it that she wanted? And I went, oh, right, yeah, 3 questions. And I thought, no, I need to repeat what I understood. And I guarantee you, when I began thinking I'm going to repeat these things, I'm going to be pointing out that I disagreed. But as I described the point of view and got confirmation, did she agree with that? She said, yeah. And I went, oh, well, I agree with that. And I went to the next, I completely misunderstood. If he hadn't been there, I guarantee you I would have walked out of there. We do not have an agreement. And I was right about it. So how many times have we harmed an opportunity that was in our own best interest because we just didn't know these 3 questions? We just didn't know how to stop creating defensiveness in the other person and create some openness. The thing about this handout is it highlights that it's not just about the 3 questions. It's also about these 5 levels of a clear communication that any of you know Virginia Satir and her family systems therapy. I got this from her. She said every communication involves 5 parts: the facts, thoughts, emotions, importance, expectations. The problem is most people don't know this, and so most people don't communicate this thoroughly. So most people will tell you their opinions about something, but not the facts the opinions are based on. They may express their emotion without actually saying what it is. They may tell you what they want, the expectation, but not why. So what you need to know is learn how to listen on these 5 levels. It's just like if you were an old-timey postal clerk and you've got all these like cubby holes, route 1, route 2, route 3. In your mind, you create these boxes, thoughts, facts, emotions, and as people say something, you put it in the box. And then you pull it out and say, okay, so you're saying this and this and this. Yeah, and what you'll know is they'll talk a lot about a few of them, but not say anything about the others. So as you're taking things out and replaying them back to them, doing the whole water glass 3 question thing, you want to be thinking about the ones they're not talking about and asking questions. So you want to be thorough on this. And if you do any work on the phone, then use this handout right sitting next to you and write down what they're saying and take notes on it to train your mind to think in these 5 levels. Every communication involves information on this. Like your television channel or cable box, there's information flowing on every channel all the time, but you just tune into one. The same thing's true here. There's information on all these channels. I'm encouraging you to learn how to tune in. So this is all stage 1 in a 6-stage process. I've got a handout. The second page in your handout is about the 6 stages. But the first thing is to learn how to empty the person of their ideas, to eliminate that you misunderstood, to avoid creating defensiveness, to reduce their resistance, to help them be more open to hearing what you have to say, and to help share those ideas with them in an important way. And it's a timing, there's a sequence to it. But it starts with some humility to the fact that you don't know everything. And once you practice this, I think about 20 times, your mind starts to think this way. Not only do you learn to listen this way, but you can actually learn to speak this way, and it can be much clearer. And just to highlight a thing, there's often a lot of confusion in our definitions of facts and thoughts. So facts by definition are measurable. You can put a number to it. There's an objectivity about it. If we're using the same measurement, we should get the same result every time. That's a fact. Opinions, thoughts, by definition, are debatable. We have thoughts and opinions about the facts. So a fact is just like a 0. It doesn't become a good or bad fact until we have an opinion about it. So if a person's, got a negative thought about something, they're probably going to have a negative emotion. If they have a positive thought about something, they're probably going to have a positive emotion. So if someone's not telling you what they're thinking, but they're upset about something, you can say, gee, I see, you're upset about this, you're hurt by this, you're afraid by this, you're angry by this, you're frustrated, you're irritated, whatever. Leave with them. Go, yeah, well, tell me more about that. When did that happen? How long did it happen? You can have a whole conversation. I encourage you to try this. Have a whole conversation with someone where you don't do anything but ask questions. It trains your mind to just empty them out, to get them down to where they're empty. And that's an important place to get to. And the 3 questions and the 5 levels are important because this little quote here, let me do this right, this first one here. People tolerate a disagreement when they experience being understood. They will not tolerate not being understood. It will fester for years. And I guarantee you, everybody has had painful experiences that they didn't experience being understood. So they're kind of set to assume you're not understanding, particularly in authority. I think there are a lot of authorities who very sincerely say, hey, my door is always open. But I guarantee you, most of their employees go, yeah, right. Because they don't have any experience. If you grew up in a family where, when you had a conflict, you did not end up closer, then you probably grew up with parents who weren't too open to a different point of view and maybe put a lot of emotion behind their point of view. And so we made an assumption, not just about our parents, but about husbands and wives and men and women and authorities. And that's playing out in everything that we do. And these things can help you because having someone experience being understood is different than your understanding. You need to focus on that and remember that. Kent says a great thing. He says, I find I ask fewer questions under stress or threat, and that's when I ignore these other channels. So you can use your own emotion as a valuable indicator of, whoa, wait a minute. If my emotion's going up, I'm probably going to misunderstand. I probably got to act in ways that's going to create defensiveness to the other person. I'm probably going to miss an opportunity to discover the agreement hidden in the disagreement, but I'm just going to feel so right because we use the intensity of our emotion as evidence of the truth of our thinking. The more upset I am, the more right I am, and others had better know it. And that's the way most of us kind of are. And we need not to be, because it destroys what we have. It destroys the future quality of our relationships at work and at home. And people don't want to work for somebody like that. So be the leader people want to work with, have fun with. These are important parts of that. So learn how to practice those things, use them on your worksheets. It'll make a big difference for you. So here are the communication skills that I think are important to know. They're integrated. The 3 questions and the 5 levels are all part of stage 1. And they're all at successfulworkrelationships.com, where there's more videos that you can observe. Me talk about the water glass thing if you want to share that with somebody. And by the way, I would not go, how many of you know someone who you think you would have liked to have heard what I've said today? Raise your hand. If you know someone you think you'd like to have heard what you say, okay. Now don't go to them and say, hey, you're the one who should have been at that call today. You know, no, that's probably not going to work. Just creates defensiveness. What you could do is say, oh, you know, I was on this program today and I've been assigned this 3-minute video of this guy. You know, I really would like your opinion. I want to know what you think about this guy, you know, and go to Success Work Relationships, play the little 3-minute video on the water glass thing and ask them what they think about that. You know, do you think and you could say, this is very tactful. You could say, do you think I should be listening to you more often? What do you think they're going to say? Then I would recommend you say, you know, you're right. I don't think I have been doing a good job of listening as much as I could have. Oh my God, transform the quality of your relationship. And the more you do that, I guarantee you, the more willing they are going to do that, or you're with the wrong person. And you'll find that out quicker. So make sure you go check that out, because I think it may stay. So Xenia raised her hand about something. Is there a question from Xenia, Matt, or I can see, I just see her, she raised her hand. Or is she just agreeing? Maybe that's just an agreeing. I'm not sure what that means. I'm used to doing conference things. Yeah, I'm the one upset. How to calm down to listen. Yeah, the speedthroughstress.com is what I use. All this stuff I use all the time. Breathe, relax, because, you know, our habits are, you know, not the good ones. You know, we have bad habits, and I don't think we ever change those. They are initial. We can't control our initial reaction to anything. There are only a few things we can control. We control the shape of our mouth, how much air we take into our lungs, you know, the tension we carry in our muscles. That takes some practice and massage. What we eat, that also takes some practice. And our second thought, not our first. Can't control our first thought. We control our second thought. But that makes all the difference, because then you can learn how to breathe, relax, reassure yourself, all those things. So your second handout is the 6 stages. And just for a moment, I want to highlight, we've been talking about stage 1 all the time here. Let me get up here. Stage 1. I understand you on 5 levels. After the person tells you that you understand, the next thing to do is not to go and point out what they don't understand. The next thing to do is to point out where you agree. And the more, the better, because I guarantee you, most of the time when you clarify where you disagree versus where you agree is small compared to where you agree. But if you go right at where you disagree first, you lose all the power and impact and influence of clarifying where you agree. And if you discovered that you misunderstood and therefore you agree with everything, it's over there. You don't go to stage 3, which is the best outcome, I think, selfishly for me, is that I misunderstood. Wow, thank you. But if not, then when you go to stage 3, you want to focus on those levels where the difference happens. And I've learned this, it's not in this handout, but I've learned that when I communicate my point of view, I want to do it in the form of questions, with the kind of Jedi mind trick of course, you've already thought about this and for some reason decided not. Now, I don't think they did, but I'm going to sincerely communicate that that's possible that they did. So help me understand, when you considered this option, what was your concerns about it or questions? So I do want to know what their concerns are. I have this thing where I tend to write to my business partner, I think we should da-da-da. And I have learned when he reads that, because he's more introverted, that he assumes I've thought a lot about it because I'm saying I think. No, I haven't thought about it. I'm saying what I think at this moment. And so he'll have to decide whether or not he wants to share with me what he's thought about it, etc. And I don't want that. So I've had to learn to catch, and still, we've been business partners for 40 years. I think, nope, I got to back that up. What do you think about? That's what I want to know. What do you think about? And so that's stage 3. And then stage 4, I'm asking, what do they agree with? If they misunderstood, it's over there. But imagine getting to stage 5 where we clarify our differences are, having done 1 through 4 versus jumping to 5, which is what we do now. And now we're just in a battle and a conflict. And we want to get to an agreement that we're both going to keep. That's the goal here. And I think this process will help you get there more. So everybody wants to have better ways of handling conflict. Now you know. So who's going to help you play with this? Who's going to help you build with this? Get someone in mind that you'd like to invite to practice with, because that's important. And I like this. Those of you who know Amy Castro, this is actually a picture from her farm that I stole. At the end of the day, what really matters is that your loved ones are well, you've done your best, and that you're thankful for all you have. And I think we need to think about that often, particularly at the end of the day. I have a video Goldcast put out. I had 3.5 million views on this. It's on my LinkedIn place, and that's in the handouts, about feeling loved is more important than being right, and a struggle that I had of a conflict with my wife over many years. So go check that out. Also, there's my TEDx talk on balancing authority and collaboration. There's a lot more in there, and that also is on my LinkedIn, as well as drrobspeaks.com and drrobcoaches.com. If you like more information, I got a lot. This is all free. Just put in resources to 4282 on your phone, and that'll give you access to other videos and documents and worksheets and things that can help you make this a practice that you do on a regular basis. 42828 resources.
Hey, Rob, quick question.
Yeah.
If people want to see your TEDx talk, would they go to YouTube and just type in your name?
Oh, you could, but it's a little challenging. That's one way to get it. But I would recommend they go to my LinkedIn, and it's listed there real easy. That's a quicker, simpler way. And I gave them the QR code to get to the LinkedIn.
Are you the only Rob Pennington in Houston?
I'm not sure, but the LinkedIn is just Robert Pennington, PhD.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? I just want to do a little plug. I'm giving a 20% off raffle for my quarterly professional development series that is 12 courses done for a year. I've got a group of people from a bunch of different companies in them, and if anyone's interested, go do the raffle. It'll save you about $400. Happy to share this, and we also do it internally for organizations. So let's reduce conflict together. Let me know how I can help. This is my contact information.